I affirm that everything belonging to my destiny begins moving toward me now. I declare that spiritual doors that remained closed for years begin to respond to my name. I decree that nothing written for me will be diverted, lost, or delayed. I affirm that my mind opens to ideas I could not access before. I declare that clarity invades thoughts that have been confused for far too long. I decree that every spiritual fog dissolves, and my vision becomes clean, sharp, and precise. I affirm that my identity expands. I declare that I see myself the way the kingdom sees me. I decree that every inferior narrative is torn out of my story. I affirm that my steps grow firm. I declare that every decision I make draws me closer to purpose. I decree that no distraction will have the power to pull me off my path. I affirm that the atmosphere around me responds to my inner alignment. I declare that everything that was stagnant begins to move. I decree that what was held back is unlocked in an irreversible way. I affirm that I carry enough light to enter any place God sends me. I declare that my presence activates doors, activates people, activates opportunities. I decree that the favor my life needed arrives without resistance. I affirm that no emotional battle will dominate spiritual decisions. I declare that my soul finds stability. I decree that every anxiety loses its strength. I affirm that I attract what is mine. I declare that nothing that belongs to me can drift away. I decree that the spiritual field reorganizes so that everything meant for me finds me. I affirm that I think with breadth. I declare that big ideas are natural to me. I decree that the cycle of scarcity ends today. I affirm that I will not limit myself by what I lived. I declare that I step into dimensions I have never experienced. I decree that I advance with consistency, not impulses. I activate everything that is already mine. I affirm that my spiritual energy rises to a level where nothing can reach me with ease. I declare that every opposing force that tried to feed on my exhaustion loses access to my life. I decree that from now on, everything that drains more than it builds is removed from my path. I affirm that my soul finds balance, and everything that was turbulence becomes solid ground. I declare that a new awareness expands within me, an awareness that makes me see opportunities where I once saw obstacles. I decree that my spiritual perception aligns with surgical precision to what God is moving. I affirm that my life will no longer be guided by what went wrong, but by what God has already prepared. I declare that memories that once hurt lose the power to filter my vision. I decree that no old pain governs new decisions. I affirm that my voice gains authority. I declare that what I release begins to build reality. I decree that words spoken in faith travel quickly and return as accelerated harvest. I affirm that I am stepping into a territory where I no longer need to explain myself, only exist. I declare that wherever I set my feet, the atmosphere responds. I decree that the right people are drawn to my purpose, and the wrong people lose their way to me. I affirm that my hands carry purpose. I declare that everything I touch prospers because the one directing my movements is the Spirit. I decree that abilities that were dormant awaken with uncommon strength. I affirm that my mind expands. I declare that solutions begin to spring up naturally. I decree that nothing is too big for me, only new. I affirm that my story is being rewritten from within. I declare that the spiritual weight that rested on my shoulders falls away. I decree that the weariness that tried to follow me loses space to a renewed strength. I affirm that my soul is being enlarged to carry what heaven is sending. I declare that my inner structure is being strengthened. I decree that I now receive what once intimidated me. I affirm that my perception of time changes. I no longer see delay, I see preparation. I declare that no season was wasted. I decree that everything, absolutely everything, is working together to position me in the territory that belongs to me. I affirm that every limitation I once tried to normalize is being broken now. I declare that areas of my life that seem stagnant begin to move as if a new spiritual gear has been activated. I decree that internal environments that were lifeless receive fresh breath and renewed purpose. I affirm that my mind is freed from cycles that never belonged to me. I declare that the clarity I once sought externally now rises within me naturally. I decree that no thought contradicting what God has written has permission to remain. I affirm that my journey is not random, it is architected from above. I declare that every step I've taken until now was preparing the ground for the level that begins today. I decree that everything that was out of place aligns like pieces, finally finding their perfect fit. I affirm that my spirituality ignites with a new intensity. I declare that my discernment becomes sharp, precise, aligned, impossible to confuse. I decree that every attempt to divert my path loses strength immediately. I affirm that the emotional weight I carried without noticing is lifted off, layer by layer. I declare that old feelings that tried to limit my growth are replaced with conviction, strength, and peace. I decree that no past trauma has authority over my future. I affirm that doors I could not see begin to reveal themselves. I declare that my vision moves beyond the natural. I decree that ideas, strategies, and directions arise with surprising ease. I affirm that my life enters deep spiritual alignment. I declare that my days receive clear direction. I decree that decisions that once felt difficult become obvious within me. I affirm that my internal frequency rises. I declare that environments that once diminished me no longer influence my perception. I decree that what was too small for me now loses its place. I affirm that my spiritual identity is strengthened. I declare that old versions of myself no longer have permission to command my movements. I decree that I live from who the kingdom says I am, not from the scars left along the way. I affirm that my emotions stabilize. I declare that my mind organizes itself. I decree that my spirit takes the lead. I affirm that I am entering an environment that recognizes me. I declare that my presence provokes movement. I decree that my arrival activates responses. I affirm that nothing in me will be small from this moment on. I declare that my expectation expands. I decree that my life grows inside before it grows outside. And now, gently and intentionally, if this content is activating something inside you, subscribe to the channel. Here, you don't walk alone. Here you grow on the inside while heaven reorganizes everything on the outside. I affirm that everything in me that still reacted like someone limited is being rewritten. I declare that my internal responses change even before my circumstances do. I decree that everything that once held me emotionally loses access completely. I affirm that I am crossing an invisible border. I declare that my life enters a territory where expansion is natural and progress is constant. I decree that nothing that once diminished me survives the environment I am stepping into now. I affirm that what I carry is stronger than what I lived. I declare that my story does not define me, my essence does. I decree that every mark of pain that tried to direct my choices is canceled by the strength of purpose. I affirm that I am guided by internal direction, not external circumstances. I declare that I no longer waste energy on what was never designed for me. I decree that every distraction that once seemed harmless loses the ability to delay me. I affirm that my thoughts begin to vibrate on another level. I declare that my mind finds solutions with supernatural speed. I decree that intellectual, creative, and spiritual doors open simultaneously. I affirm that my words carry weight. I declare that my decisions carry alignment. I decree that my path remains firm, with no detours and no regressions. I affirm that the atmosphere around me responds to my spirit. I declare that everything that was stagnant begins to flow. I decree that closed environments begin to open in response to my positioning. I affirm that my identity is being strengthened. I declare that no opposing opinion erases what God has affirmed about me. I decree that every insecurity that tried to survive inside me is expelled now. I affirm that my vision rises. I declare that my dreams become reachable. I decree that my capacity grows beyond what I imagined. I affirm that every part of me comes into order, body, soul, and spirit. I declare that my vital energy is renewed. I decree that my emotional life leaves chaos and enters alignment. I affirm that new paths begin to emerge. I declare that the right opportunities find me. I decree that everything that was delayed accelerates in my favor. I affirm that I no longer depend on the world's response. I declare that my reference is heaven, not my past experiences. I decree that I become greater than any cycle that tries to limit me. And now, as a prophetic and powerful act, write in the comments, I step into the environment of spiritual and emotional expansion. Do not write casually, write as spiritual movement, as record, as legal authority. I affirm that every cell in my body begins responding to the frequency of abundance. I declare that my body, my mind, and my spirit align with what the kingdom is releasing right now. I decree that there is no longer division between what I believe and what I live. Everything becomes one single flow. I affirm that my internal rhythm synchronizes with the rhythm of purpose. I declare that time stops being my enemy and becomes my ally. I decree that every season of my life begins to cooperate with what is being built within me. I affirm that my voice carries creative power. I declare that every word that leaves my mouth generates movement in the invisible. I decree that the atmosphere around me begins to be shaped by the vibration of faith. I affirm that my ideas are not random, they are spiritual downloads. I declare that divine inspiration visits me frequently. I decree that the wisdom that comes from above makes me a reference in everything I touch. I affirm that nothing in me is small. I declare that the size of my purpose demands the expansion of my structure. I decree that I become a safe house for everything God wants to manifest through me. I affirm that there is no longer separation between the spiritual and the natural. I declare that the supernatural becomes my new normal. I decree that what was distant now becomes accessible, and what was impossible becomes common. I affirm that no scarcity governs me. I declare that prosperity is not an event, it is a consciousness that already lives within me. I decree that everything that was withheld begins responding to my name. I affirm that my vital energy is restored. I declare that my body regains strength. I decree that nothing stops me from sustaining what is being released spiritually. I affirm that favor begins to surround me in details. I declare that divine grace becomes visible even in the smallest things. I decree that the right doors open naturally and the wrong doors close gently. I affirm that I no longer live by trial, I live by direction. I declare that every step I take is guided by the precision of the Spirit. I decree that no distraction has the power to pull me away from the path the kingdom has established. I affirm that I am learning to hear what God's silence reveals. I declare that stillness is not absence, it is construction. I decree that the backstage of the invisible is preparing manifestations that will surprise me. I affirm that everything being formed in the secret place of the Spirit will be born at the perfect time. I declare that nothing will be premature and nothing will be late. I decree that what is mine is never lost, it only matures. I affirm that the atmosphere of my home changes. I declare that my presence carries order, light, and stability. I decree that every environment I enter will be impacted by the presence of God that lives in me. I affirm that I am becoming a reference of balance and faith. I declare that my life will be living proof that the kingdom is real. I decree that I am a response to the environment around me. I affirm that my consciousness awakens to a level of clarity I have never had before. I declare that I perceive details that once went unnoticed. I decree that I receive discernment to distinguish divine direction from distraction. I affirm that my thoughts stop being enemies and become allies. I declare that my mind becomes a clean, fertile, and healthy field. I decree that everything that once tried to create confusion loses access to my inner system. I affirm that I am no longer at war with my own story. I declare that every part of what I lived becomes a tool, not a prison. I decree that the past stops being weight and becomes a platform. I affirm that my spirit strengthens my emotional structure. I declare that I receive a firmness that does not shake, even when external circumstances shift. I decree that no pressure dominates me because my strength comes from a place deeper than emotions. I affirm that I am stepping into the phase where God not only opens doors, He gives me the boldness to walk through them. I declare that I no longer hesitate between what I feel and what I know in the Spirit. I decree that courage becomes my default state. I affirm that my inner territory expands, and therefore my external life begins to follow that growth. I declare that the right people begin to recognize me. I decree that what was distant draws near naturally. I affirm that there is something being built inside me that no one on the outside can explain. I declare that the invisible works on my behalf. I decree that the movement of the kingdom reorganizes everything that was misaligned. I affirm that the energy of my soul stabilizes. I declare that anxiety, fear, and restlessness can no longer govern my steps. I decree that my inner peace becomes unshakable, and that changes everything around me. I affirm that my spirit is more sensitive, more awake, and more intuitive. I declare that I receive instructions clearly. I decree that the voice of purpose becomes the loudest voice within me. I affirm that divine connections begin to appear unexpectedly. I declare that no delay remains. I decree that my life enters a phase of flow and advancement. I affirm that I am no longer a hostage to time. I govern time with wisdom. I declare that each day becomes productive, aligned, and purposeful. I decree that wasting energy is no longer part of who I am. I affirm that I evolve. I declare that I expand. I decree that I access what once seemed inaccessible. I affirm that my life is entering a cycle where I no longer have to force what is mine. I declare that everything carrying my spiritual signature begins to locate me with precision. I decree that I no longer chase, I attract, I manifest, I receive. I affirm that my spiritual vibration rises and everything misaligned loses interest in me. I declare that whatever no longer fits my new level moves away on its own. I decree that what remains is only what strengthens, builds, and propels me. I affirm that my identity is solid, steady, and mature. I declare that I no longer seek validation. I walk in conviction. I decree that every shadow of doubt dissolves as I advance. I affirm that my thoughts come into alignment with my destiny. I declare that my mind becomes creative, strategic, and conscious. I decree that my mindset leaves scarcity behind and enters the territory of complete abundance. I affirm that my days gain meaning. I declare that my decisions become coherent with who I am becoming. I decree that I no longer waste energy on battles that are not mine. I affirm that my atmosphere shifts as I speak, think, and position myself. I declare that the spiritual environment around me reorganizes itself. I decree that everything begins to cooperate, even things that once resisted me. I affirm that doors that seemed distant begin to draw near. I declare that divine connections gain movement. I decree that access begins to happen without human explanation. I affirm that nothing pulls me off my path. I declare that my focus remains firm. I decree that every area of my life receives alignment. I affirm that the right opportunities manifest. I declare that my gifts gain visibility. I decree that my name is remembered in places where it is meant to be. I affirm that my presence carries impact. I declare that when I enter, environments shift. I decree that my life becomes response, influence, and transformation. And now, just one movement. Simple, light, effortless, yet full of spiritual purpose. Write in the comments. I activate my next level now. Do not write out of habit. Write as spiritual legality. It is a prophetic act. It is release. It is alignment. I affirm that my inner world comes into order before any external scenario changes. I declare that government begins within me, and therefore nothing outside of me dominates me. I decree that chaos loses its place because authority is being established. I affirm that I no longer live reacting. I act with awareness. I declare that emotions no longer drive my decisions. I decree that my soul learns to obey the spirit with firmness and peace. I affirm that every past experience now serves as foundation, not weight. I declare that what once looked like delay becomes preparation. I decree that no season has been wasted. I affirm that my discernment becomes sharper. I declare that I quickly recognize what comes to build and what comes to distract. I decree that distractions lose access to my energy. I affirm that my time begins to be respected. I declare that I no longer explain myself to those who cannot understand who I am. I decree that healthy boundaries are established without guilt. I affirm that my presence becomes stable. I declare that I no longer oscillate between fear and courage. I decree that my consistency builds lasting results. I affirm that my vision matures. I declare that I am no longer moved only by desire, but by direction. I decree that projects gain roots before gaining shape. I affirm that my words carry weight because they are born from alignment. I declare that I speak less, but with greater authority. I decree that every decision carries clear intention. I affirm that excess noise falls silent around me. I declare that the essential becomes evident. I decree that the simple becomes powerful again. I affirm that my pace adjusts to the right pace. I declare that I do not rush out of anxiety nor delay out of fear. I decree that I walk in the exact rhythm of purpose. I affirm that my identity no longer depends on approval. I declare that I am guided by inner conviction. I decree that comparison loses all influence over me. I affirm that my territory begins responding to my positioning. I declare that places once closed now become accessible. I decree that access comes with responsibility and maturity. I affirm that my choices build the future. I declare that I plant today what will sustain tomorrow. I decree that I do not return to older versions of myself. I affirm that clarity becomes constant. I declare that confusion finds no space to settle. I decree that my mind operates in stability and focus. I affirm that expansion happens from the inside out. I declare that I do not need to prove anything, I only need to advance. I decree that growth becomes natural, steady, and continuous. I affirm that what belongs to me begins aligning with my path. I declare that I no longer miss opportunities because of internal misalignment. I decree that my yes and my no gains strength and coherence. I affirm that my journey enters a new level of solidity. I declare that everything I build from now on remains. I decree that my life organizes itself to sustain what is coming. I affirm that my life now enters an elevated field of consciousness. I declare that my vision is no longer fragmented. It becomes integrated, spirit, soul, and purpose speaking the same language. I decree that no part of me walks disconnected from the other. I affirm that my spiritual energy rises to a level that blocks access to anything that once drained my strength. I declare that people, environments, and patterns that consumed my vitality lose permission. I decree that my emotional field closes itself to everything that does not carry truth, peace, and alignment. I affirm that I step into a maturity that cannot be reversed. I declare that my spirit gains firmness, my soul gains stability, my body gains lightness. I decree that my presence shifts environments, not the other way around. I affirm that I respond to purpose with clarity. I declare that where I once hesitated, now I advance with certainty. I decree that my spiritual intuition becomes so precise that confusion no longer exists as a possibility. I affirm that I leave behind every role I accepted just to survive. I declare that I assume who I truly am without fear, without shrinking, without apology. I decree that my identity is no longer negotiable. I affirm that my mind operates in the frequency of abundance. I declare that my thoughts stop revolving around scarcity, lack, fear, or loss. I decree that my inner world expands to carry possibilities greater than my previous story. I affirm that nothing in me is late. Everything is being rearranged for the right moment. I declare that I learn again to feel spiritual timing with precision. I decree that I flow with what heaven is releasing, not with what chaos is suggesting. I affirm that paths once invisible begin to appear. I declare that alternate routes rise where there seemed to be no way. I decree that doors become visible even before I reach them. I affirm that what is mine draws near. I declare that nothing carrying my name gets lost on the way. I decree that my life enters a path of convergence. I step into my identity and take my territory. And if this movement is making sense inside you, if something is truly being unlocked, subscribe to the channel now, not out of habit, but as someone entering a new territory and choosing to walk daily inside this atmosphere. I affirm that my path is being illuminated by instructions I once couldn't perceive. I declare that my spiritual sensitivity increases every second, and everything that was blurry begins to take shape. I decree that nothing rooted in confusion remains within me. I affirm that my future stops being a possibility and becomes a daily construction. I declare that I no longer live reacting to circumstances, I live responding to divine direction. I decree that my life moves by purpose, not pressure. I affirm that what seemed stuck was only being prepared. I declare that spiritual timelines are adjusted in my favor. I decree that what took years steps into supernatural acceleration. I affirm that I receive clarity to know what is for now, what is for later, and what should never have been part of my path. I declare that no distraction disguises itself as opportunity in my life. I decree that my discernment cuts through the surface and sees the depths. I affirm that everything I have built until now becomes foundation for something much greater. I declare that no experience was wasted. Each one becomes a tool, wisdom, and authority. I decree that mistakes do not become prisons. They become learning and advancement. I affirm that my mind does not return to old patterns. I declare that my emotions do not return to past wounds. I decree that my energy does not return to environments that no longer hold me. I affirm that the path before me expands. I declare that the space that once felt narrow now widens before my steps. I decree that places that rejected me become witnesses of my advancement. I affirm that old ideas return with new strength. I declare that seeds planted years ago begin to sprout beyond natural timing. I decree that everything that was incubating now manifests. I affirm that I am not late, I am aligned. I declare that I am not alone, I am accompanied by purpose. I decree that I am not in the dark, I am being repositioned in silence. I affirm that my life permanently leaves the frequency of survival. I declare that I step into the frequency of building. I decree that I assume the frequency of inner leadership, the voice God ignited within me. Now take a deep breath, because this part must be sealed with awareness. Say this, with real spiritual intention. I step into the rhythm of purpose and advance without hesitation. Breathe again. Now say, I accept what is mine. I walk in what is mine. I manifest what is mine. I affirm that everything within me that lived contracted begins to expand. I declare that my soul no longer lives compressed by old memories. I decree that everything that once tried to shrink me loses authority over my new version. I affirm that my spirit takes the leadership that fear once occupied. I declare that my mind abandons the habit of expecting the worst. I decree that worn-out emotions are replaced with conviction. I affirm that my inner worth is restored. I declare that my identity is not defined by losses or opinions. I decree that my story stops being a weapon against me and becomes a platform for my destiny. I affirm that I begin to respond as someone who carries purpose. I declare that small thoughts no longer make sense. I decree that no narrative of scarcity remains active within me. I affirm that my emotional frequency rises. I declare that my body responds to my new spiritual consciousness. I decree that old cycles close permanently. I affirm that internal doors open to new vision. I declare that my spirit understands what the natural cannot comprehend. I decree that my spiritual sensitivity increases to levels impossible to ignore. I affirm that environments begin to respond to my presence. I declare that emotional burdens that were never mine are removed. I decree that negative expectations are replaced with clear direction. I affirm that my intuition sharpens. I declare that I recognize the voice of purpose even in noisy environments. I decree that decisions that once felt heavy now flow with inner brilliance. I affirm that my feet find stability. I declare that my spirit finds rest. I decree that my journey finds meaning. Now breathe and declare firmly, even if softly, nothing in me returns to what has already passed. Again, I choose what expands me. Now, as spiritual act and legal authority, write in the comments, I advance because I was called. Write it to seal. Write it to step into the movement. I can't live small anymore. I can't fit into places I've outgrown. I can't survive what I was meant to leave behind. I affirm that every part of me that became accustomed to little begins to be reprogrammed. I declare that every emotional conditioning that limited me loses its strength. I decree that my inner world expands to hold what God is releasing. I affirm that the insecure version of me is no longer compatible with my purpose. I declare that my mind no longer entertains thoughts that diminish me. I decree that the echo of the past loses the right to participate in my decisions. I affirm that my presence carries authority. I declare that my voice carries weight. I decree that my spiritual energy aligns harmoniously with my destiny. I affirm that I am guided by clarity, not doubt. I declare that I am moved by purpose, not fear. I decree that my path responds to my positioning. I affirm that I am not seeking validation. I am stepping into position. I declare that doors open because heaven decided, not because I forced them. I decree that environments shape themselves to what God placed inside me. I affirm that my spiritual consciousness expands. I declare that my discernment grows. I decree that I perceive doors others cannot see. I affirm that my energy returns. I declare that my focus comes back. I decree that my strength is renewed from the inside out. I affirm that nothing difficult defines me. I declare that what wounded me does not dictate who I am. I decree that no story reduces me. I was designed to expand. I affirm that my spirit moves with precision. I declare that my soul receives relief. I decree that my life finds its access. I affirm that everything that is mine comes to me. I declare that aligned opportunities locate me. I decree that the right doors open at the exact time. Now, say this with strength, even softly. I will not return to less. Again, I receive what expands me. And now, as a prophetic movement, write in the comments, I leave the small to live what God has written. I affirm that internal dimensions that were once silent begin to activate. I declare that abilities I could not access begin to emerge with strength. I decree that buried talents rise again with new maturity. I affirm that my spiritual perception sharpens like an antenna receiving signals from above. I declare that I no longer fall into old confusions. I decree that no deception has permission to operate on my path. I affirm that my mind receives divine intelligence. I declare that I can see solutions before problems appear. I decree that thoughts that once delayed me are replaced with strategic clarity. I affirm that my energy reorganizes itself. I declare that my soul receives stability. I decree that my body responds to the movement of the spirit. I affirm that I am led into environments where my presence is necessary. I declare that paths begin to open without effort. I decree that what once seemed impossible now aligns with my reality. I affirm that I no longer live from leftovers. I live from what God assigned. I declare that I no longer depend on human confirmation. I decree that my confidence comes from heaven, not from the opinions of others. I affirm that I receive strategies to advance. I declare that old doors that closed lose their importance. I decree that new doors open in unexpected places. I affirm that my spirit leads, my mind understands, and my body follows. I declare that nothing ties me to what once wounded me. I decree that I step into places I once thought I could never enter. I affirm that opportunities begin to recognize me by the spiritual mark I carry. I declare that aligned people arrive without noise. I decree that whoever needed to leave is removed without pain. Now say this firmly: I step into the territory heaven prepared. Again, with greater strength, I access what has always been mine. And as a prophetic movement, write in the comments, I access what God aligned for me. I am no longer the same person. Something in me has crossed an invisible border. I affirm that every old fragility loses its power over my decisions. I declare that my spiritual consciousness rises to a higher level. I decree that my life leaves survival mode and enters governance mode. I affirm that I am repositioned by identity, not by circumstance. I declare that my posture aligns with my purpose. I decree that my life responds to my faith. I affirm that I receive new courage. I declare that everything that once intimidated me loses strength. I decree that my voice carries the sound of someone who knows who they are. I affirm that no obstacle has the power to stop me. I declare that nothing that tried to confuse me remains standing. I decree that breakthroughs arrive in sequence, not in isolation. I affirm that my days receive divine alignment. I declare that my spiritual rhythm strengthens. I decree that my inner atmosphere rejects every form of scarcity. I affirm that my spirit is stronger than the environment. I declare that my purpose is greater than any resistance. I decree that what I carry unsettles everything that is not from God. I affirm that my life enters acceleration. I declare that testimonies begin to rise. I decree that doors open before I even touch them. I affirm that no opposing word affects me. I declare that no negative sentence establishes itself. I decree that my story is rewritten through divine intervention. Now, declare this with intensity. I advance. I take hold. I occupy. I manifest. I affirm that my life does not return to its former size. I declare that my inner vision expands into dimensions I could not reach before. I decree that limits I once accepted cease to exist. I affirm that what is mine in the kingdom begins to locate me. I declare that I no longer walk by trial. I walk by divine design. I decree that accuracy becomes constant, not occasional. I affirm that the weight of glory rests upon my purpose. I declare that my presence activates atmospheres wherever I go. I decree that environments adjust when I enter. I affirm that every inner doubt dissolves. I declare that my identity stabilizes. I decree that my security is born from the Spirit, not from circumstances. I affirm that I receive strength to make difficult decisions. I declare that old cycles lose their voice over me. I decree that any person, environment, or memory that tried to pull me back loses access. I affirm that doors that once seemed closed were only detours, and the true path appears now. I declare that nothing that is mine is delayed. I decree that nothing that is mine is diverted. I decree that nothing that is mine is lost. I affirm that I carry enough light to illuminate entire territories. I declare that my spirit receives supernatural boldness. I decree that wherever I step, there is response. I affirm that ideas that were dormant begin to rise again. I declare that strategies arrive with clarity. I decree that spiritual intelligence is expanded within me. I affirm that I do not return to the level where I fought to survive. I declare that I live in the dimension where abundance circulates. I decree that my life becomes fertile ground for what God is building. Now declare with real intention, I accept the magnitude of what I carry. I take my place in what God designed. I step into the expansion heaven has released. When heaven decides to reposition you, there is no prior announcement. Things simply begin to shift, first inside you, then around you, and finally in the visible world. And suddenly you realize, I am no longer the person who tolerated what I once accepted. I affirm that my soul grows stronger. I declare that my spirit governs over my emotions. I decree that no instability has permission to direct my choices. I affirm that I receive eagle vision, elevated, wide, and precise. I declare that I interpret spiritual signals with clarity. I decree that no distraction infiltrates my path. I affirm that everything that drained my energy loses power. I declare that misaligned relationships move away naturally. I decree that the right connections are drawn to me as heaven's response. I affirm that I receive courage to occupy spaces where I once shrank. I declare that I become a giant before any scenario that once intimidated me. I decree that my posture shifts and my life follows the posture. I affirm that I am aligned internally before I am repositioned externally. I declare that the correct order establishes itself. Spirit gives soul, gives body, gives environment, gives destiny. I decree that nothing pulls me out of this alignment. I affirm that scarcity loses its language inside me. I declare that my mind learns the rhythm of abundance. I decree that every generational pattern of limitation is broken now. I affirm that I receive grace to advance into new territories. I declare that I am not afraid of the unknown, because the unknown is already under divine government. I decree that the future does not frighten me. It calls me. I affirm that my life becomes a territory of answers. I declare that the right doors open quietly. I decree that my harvest cannot be interrupted by anything. Now declare this with spiritual authority. I take possession of what was reserved for me. I will not go back. I advance in heaven's rhythm. I advance into the territory God entrusted to me. I affirm that everything God placed inside me awakens with force. I declare that gifts once hidden now rise with clarity. I decree that no talent, ability, or grace is lost along the way. I affirm that my vision expands. I declare that my spiritual sensitivity becomes sharp. I decree that I perceive details that once went unnoticed. I affirm that what once seemed insignificant gains proportion. I declare that my hands prosper in what they touch. I decree that ideas, creativity, and strategies multiply within me. I affirm that my voice finds direction. I declare that my purpose takes form. I decree that my destiny begins to move. I affirm that I no longer live putting out fires. I live building purpose. I declare that I reject emotional chaos. I decree that I stand as someone guided by the stability of the spirit. I affirm that closed doors do not define me. I declare that delays do not paralyze me. I decree that I walk by revelation, not by natural visibility. I affirm that I receive spiritual instructions with precision. I declare that my mind is illuminated by heavenly intelligence. I decree that no confusion governs my decisions. I affirm that I am being structured to carry more. I declare that my capacity expands. I decree that my territory grows from the inside out. Now declare this with strength. I awaken what was sleeping inside me. I manifest what God placed within me. I awaken what heaven planted in me. I affirm that I no longer hide from the greatness I carry. I declare that my posture shifts, my energy shifts, and my life follows that shift. I decree that I take the place the kingdom has assigned to me. I affirm that I do not occupy small spaces. I declare that my presence carries purpose. I decree that wherever I step, the atmosphere recognizes spiritual authority. I affirm that I receive wisdom for important decisions. I declare that no uncertainty can paralyze me. I decree that I advance even when I cannot see everything because I walk by revelation. I affirm that my voice carries weight. I declare that my influence expands. I decree that the right people find me. I affirm that resources begin to flow. I declare that opportunities are drawn to my new frequency. I decree that nothing that belongs to me remains distant. I affirm that my mind is trained for abundance. I declare that my soul learns to rest. I decree that my spirit governs my days. I affirm that I do not return to cycles that have already ended. I declare that the past loses its strength. I decree that the new establishes itself with firmness. I affirm that I do not waste time with distractions. I declare that my energy is focused on what matters. I decree that every step I take is strategic. I affirm that I am prepared for greater territories. I declare that I receive courage to occupy them. I decree that what is mine will not be taken, reduced, or delayed. Now, declare this with real intention. I take my position in the kingdom. I enter the environment prepared for me. I govern what God entrusted to me. I take my position and access what is mine. If this ignited something inside you, subscribe to the channel so you can keep walking inside this same atmosphere of activation. I affirm that everything awaiting me in the future begins to approach ahead of time. I declare that dormant promises awaken with accelerated force. I decree that what would have taken years is reduced to days. I affirm that I no longer walk in spiritual delay. I declare that my path suffers no detours. I decree that my life responds to heaven's rhythm, not the rhythm of circumstances. I affirm that doors that once seemed distant move closer to my reality. I declare that the right people are sent as divine responses. I decree that nothing that belongs to me is lost, delayed, or hidden. I affirm that my spirit is awake to recognize opportunities I once overlooked. I declare that I receive inner alignment to see invisible paths. I decree that my spiritual intuition becomes sharper than ever. I affirm that every step I take is guided. I declare that every movement carries purpose. I decree that what once looked casual now reveals itself as strategic. I affirm that heaven is reorganizing scenarios in my favor. I declare that entire environments become fertile ground for me. I decree that closed doors transform into passages of advancement. Now declare this with power. I receive divine acceleration over my life. My destiny is coming toward me. I affirm that my spiritual identity rises to a higher level. I declare that who I was no longer limits who I am becoming. I decree that my mind takes on a new standard of greatness. I affirm that I no longer operate in survival mode. I declare that I abandon the mentality of scarcity. I decree that I think, act, and decide as someone who carries inheritance. I affirm that old narratives lose their power. I declare that the labels that tried to shrink me are broken. I decree that no human definition surpasses what God has spoken over me. I affirm that my spirit takes emotional leadership. I declare that my heart stabilizes. I decree that my posture stands firm with authority. I affirm that I receive clarity about who I truly am. I declare that deeper layers of my purpose are revealed. I decree that nothing that once tried to steal my identity prevails. I affirm that my inner worth aligns with the worth the kingdom placed in me. I declare that my expectations rise. I decree that my external life aligns with my internal transformation. Now, declare with full awareness, I step into the identity the kingdom gave me. I activate the identity that unlocks access. I affirm that my steps carry the strength to open pathways. I declare that new territories respond to my movement. I decree that no resistance remains when I advance. I affirm that my presence carries purpose. I declare that environments recognize me for who I am. I decree that I influence places where I once merely survived. I affirm that doors once locked unlock before my courage. I declare that opportunities take notice of me. I decree that what once ignored my name now becomes a response. I affirm that I do not retreat before the unknown. I declare that boldness from the Spirit invades my steps. I decree that my path expands as I move. I affirm that I am not intimidated by challenges. I declare that I receive grace for larger territories. I decree that everything that was still begins to move. I affirm that my territory increases. I declare that the right connections find me. I decree that the right doors open with ease. Now declare with authority, I advance into the territory that belongs to me, and write in the comments as a spiritual act. I advance without retreating, and if this spoke to your spirit, subscribe to the channel, because this journey doesn't end here, it's only beginning. Breathe for a moment. Because now we're stepping into a realm where the mind no longer commands, where emotions no longer decide, where the impossible loses its name, and where only the spirit responds. In the next few minutes, you won't just hear words, you will cross a spiritual portal. Everything you've declared up to this point has been preparing your inner being. And now, we're going to activate what has already been released in heaven. If something moved inside you, if something burned, if something aligned, then this prayer is for you. Turn your attention to the Spirit. Silence what distracts you. Open the inner space where only God has access. Because from this moment on, this is no longer reflection, no longer declaration. This is divine movement happening inside you. Get ready. Now I'm going to pray for you. Close your eyes for a moment and allow the Spirit to speak louder than the mind. Father of glory, God who governs times, paths, and territories, I pray now for this person who is here, not by accident, but by divine summons. I declare that in this exact second, their time realigns, their spirit awakens, and everything that was dormant within them rises with strength. Lord, I place before you their journey. Every silent battle, every door that did not open, every territory that felt distant, every promise that seemed delayed. And I declare, by the power of your Spirit, that nothing planted by the kingdom will remain barren. Now, living God, breathe over them the wind of victory, the wind that removes old burdens, the wind that breaks invisible agreements, the wind that shatters cycles that never came from you. Breathe over their mind and let all confusion, doubt, and exhaustion dissolve. Breathe over their soul and let old wounds be replaced with new strength. Breathe over their spirit and let their true identity ignite like fire in the dark. Now, in the name of the one who reigns above every name, I declare access. Access to what was locked. Access to what was hidden. Access to what was withheld. Access to what heaven had already prepared. I declare that doors respond to them, that environments recognize them, that territories open before them, that resources locate them, that opportunities begin running toward them. I break now every attempt of the enemy to delay their life. I break every spiritual resistance that tried to paralyze their steps. I break the emotional weight that drained their strength. I break every opposing word spoken over their destiny. I break generational cycles of stagnation and limitation. Broken it is, canceled it is, with no right of return. And now I release over this person the code of victory. Victory that does not depend on human effort, but on spiritual legality. Victory that flows from purpose, not chance. Victory born in the invisible and manifested in the natural. I declare victory over what they touch, victory over what they decide, victory over what they rebuild, victory over what they begin, victory over what they are destined to access. Lord, release over them the grace that accelerates, the grace that opens paths, the grace that positions, the grace that propels them into their designed future. Let no strange voice confuse them. Let no distraction divert them. Let no resistance stop them. Now, Father, I pray for transfer, the transfer of everything that was stored for this time. Transfer wisdom, transfer vision, transfer connections, transfer resources, transfer ideas, transfer strength, transfer honor, transfer authority, transfer territory. Let what they could not access become reachable. Let what was distant draw near. Let what seemed impossible become natural. I prophesy, they enter the season where heaven delivers what the earth could never give. They enter the phase where doors open without effort. They enter the cycle where purpose speaks louder than any opposition. I release divine alignment over them, alignment of steps, alignment of thoughts, alignment of decisions, alignment of connections. Let them be drawn to the right place at the right time, with the right people, to live what only you could write. Now I declare, with spiritual authority, that whatever tried to hold them back loses power, that whatever tried to confuse them loses access, that whatever tried to delay them loses its path. No shadow prevails over one carried by light. No resistance stands before one who carries divine design. No blockage remains upright before one whom heaven has decided to raise. And I prophesy over this person, what was closed will open, what was still will move, what was bound will break, what was hidden will appear, what was distant will arrive, what was delayed will manifest. Now, Father, seal this prayer as a decree from heaven, mark their spirit with this word, and cause them, from this day forward, to walk not as one who waits, but as one who has already received. Because this is what you are doing now? Delivering, unlocking, aligning, positioning, and accelerating. Their life will never be the same. Their territory will never be the same. Their spirit will never be the same. And I declare that from this very moment on, they enter the environment of inevitable victory, the cycle of constant abundance, and the path of divine transfer. So I pray, so I declare, so it is done, so it shall be seen. Amen, amen, amen. May the grace, the strength, and the favor of God manifest in your life in increasing measure from this day forward. May your steps be guided, your doors be opened, and everything heaven has written about you find its path to be fulfilled. If this word touched you, awakened you, or unlocked something inside of you, then don't walk away from this atmosphere. Subscribe to the channel and keep advancing every single day inside the environment God has prepared for your growth. May heaven go with you, may the light lead you, and may nothing keep you from living what is yours. I bless you. Go in peace and go in strength.